I didn't receive any financial compensation for this review and purchased Dustborn with my own money. Dustborn didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. It exists within the context of both current and past games. It draws heavy inspiration from titles like the Telltale series, the criminally underrated Guardians of the Galaxy, and Road 96. It also exists in a gaming landscape as divided as the fictional version of the United States depicted in the game. There's a faction within the gaming community that lashes out at what they perceive to be forced diversity, equity, and inclusion in video games. They've even gone so far as to create a website dedicated to identifying games that include DEI, with Dustborn prominently featured. Dustborn pulls no punches in its depictions of the bigotry and hatred the culturally diverse characters experience. It's very clear about the influences of white supremacy and colonialism. To have the courage to make a game in a landscape like this deserves applause. I'm firmly within the demographic this game is made for. Not just the LGBTQ+ community, but gamers who take gaming seriously, who don't skip cutscenes, and who want narratives and characters that reflect the real-life struggles we all face. But as a representative of those gamers, those who would have me represent them, Dustborn has left me feeling confused, disrespected, and angry. The story revolves around Pax, an anomal with the power to influence people with her words, and a ragtag group of friends on a road trip to deliver a package to New Pacifica, a division of the divided states of America. In this world, JFK was not assassinated, but his wife was, leading to the development of a semi-fascist regime with Marilyn Monroe as his wife, protected by law enforcement robots. As you might imagine, in a world like this, various subcultures and factions develop as people fight to survive in this alternate timeline. The developers of this game had a message they wanted to convey. My problem is that they assume the individuals they're conveying it to are unintelligent. We're not. We read everything, watch all the cutscenes, and don't skip dialogue, something the developers must know because listening to dialogue is a gameplay mechanic. You can't skip through faster because new dialogue choices are added or taken away depending on the context. It's a nice touch. Yet there were countless times that Dustborn would subtly make a comment about society only for one of the team members to butt in and explain the metaphor. The combat in this game is atrocious. It's truly some of the clunkiest and most unpolished combat I've seen in a long time. As someone who enjoys games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and the also underrated Hi-Fi Rush, I don't understand how the combat in this game made it through playtesting. Pax has the same 4-button combo, upgradable to 5, that persists throughout the entirety of the game. Her ability to use shouts like block, which stuns the enemy, or cancel, which makes them feel bad about themselves and lowers their fighting ability, breaks up the monotony. But on the whole, it just feels unfinished. Take the parry mechanic, for example. While wonderful when it works, due to the clunkiness of the controls, it's nearly impossible to direct Pax accordingly to block incoming attacks. Additionally, while most beat-em-ups feature move cancels, where you can stop the animation of one move and go into another, allowing you to change tactics as needed, no such mechanic exists in this game. It's just frustrating to play for anyone who cares about accuracy or skill. The voice acting is another area where this game fails miserably at times.
What the hell is that?
Citizens surrender peacefully.
It's trouble, is what that is. We need a weapon.
And it's not just due to the script, which can be downright painful to listen to. There are moments when the characters are all sitting together, sharing stories about their lives, and you believe them due to the passion they bring to their performance. And then there are times when the lines are delivered so flat and so devoid of emotion that you wonder if the voiceover director was too afraid to tell the actors that that line needed to be redone. In fact, some of the most stilted lines come from the voice actor for the main character. It's confusing because at times they do quite well, delivering lines with passion and emotion. And in other times, it feels like they were just having a bad day, in which case, it's the director's job to ensure that they still give a great performance, which did not occur. The music rhythm section of the game offended me the most. Colorful Stage, Metal Hellsinger, and Guitar Hero are just a few of the music rhythm games that I've played and enjoyed. My favorite gaming achievement is beating through the Fire and the Flames on Expert and Guitar Hero. I love music rhythm games, and if you play them, you know that the UI is the most important part. It's literally the virtual representation of the instrument you use to play the game. In Dustborn, this is so poorly implemented. The sections use face buttons of the controller, and you simply press in time when they cross the beat line. The problem is the notes fly in from the cardinal directions, and the beat line lacks any visual feedback to help you judge when notes are crossing the line, resulting in missing notes entirely. The songs I unlocked thus far have been overwhelmingly cringe.
I'm sorry, it's so cringy. Oh god.
Oh god. Oh shit. Sorry. My bad. Oh, so I could sec it up. I could mess it up on purpose. Okay. This is somewhat explained in the story, as being in a band is a cover story for them to traverse the divided states without being harassed. But even still, one would expect the songs to get better as the game progresses, which simply doesn't happen. The developers themselves have described the game as inspired by political events that took place in 2016, and in doing so set a target on their backs. They knew full well what they were doing and how it would be received. And although the game should be allowed to fail and not have to be the example of what a diverse game should be, just as the model minority stereotype plagues my Asian gaming family, or the hard-working stereotype burdens my Hispanic gaming family, making it impossible for them to fail without being an example of a failure of their entire respective races, the fact is, Dustborn didn't fall out of a coconut tree. If you're gonna paint yourself this way, then you have to do it right. You have to at least make sure the mechanics of the game are good. We're not like other gamers who play the same reskin Call of Duty, live service, predatory loot box games that plague the industry. We're not going to blindly defend bad gameplay, even if the characters in the game look like us. We do this because we love games and we know how good they can be. It's obvious that a lot of passion and anger fuel the development of this game, and rightfully so. However, it seems in their desire to stick it to the man and lash out against rising fascism and anti-wokeness, they forgot about making an enjoyable experience for those the game was clearly marketed to. Just because your game has characters and themes that reflect diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't mean we as gamers are going to give you a pass when you are so clearly hoping we overlook the gameplay mechanics and focus on the story, which is why I believe the option to have less combat was included in the game. This game should have just been a narrative experience. Dustborn is not a bad game because of its diverse characters, storyline, and inclusion of real-world political commentary. Being woke is not the problem here. The problem is that Dustborn fails to bring together all its elements into a cohesive package that invites the player to continue exploring its world. This is why I stopped before the conclusion at about 18 hours in. At this exact point. Let's cancel the whole group.
You got nobody.
Okay, that's... Baby, you're not even hitting anyone. I'm sorry. Are you serious, man? Come the fuck on. She did not hit. Wow. You can't. That pissed me off. At that moment, I realized the developers were hoping that, as mindful gamers, we just wouldn't mind the fact that I directed my character to do a special move, and she flailed around, hitting some enemies and missing others entirely, with no follow-up animation for downed enemies. It felt like they were playing in my face. I don't rate games out of 10, as a numbered rating scale for video games is the most vapid form of criticism. The numbers mean nothing. What I will say is that this game could have been a love letter to individuals who resonate with the themes presented. I have friends who use they-them pronouns like Gnome, friends who practice the same religion as Sai, and I know a Theo with a velvety voice who prefers kickboxing to knitting, but is still just as genuine and comfortable in his masculinity. The world presented here is not unfathomable, although probably without the magic powers that make people stop moving when you speak. I'm just so disappointed that the developers didn't spend more time polishing the gameplay, voice acting, and pacing within the story. Knowing that this game was funded in part by Norwegian taxpayers adds an extra layer of disrespect. I don't know what percentage of them are gamers or if they even know what to be critical of in the game, but as someone who did pay money for it in hopes of giving it a chance, I can say that I simply regret my choice. I absolutely hate to add to the derision surrounding the game, but know that my criticisms encompass more than the game being woke, DEI-infested trash. So should you buy this game? I would say yes and no. Yes, if you want to be a part of gaming history and one of the first 100 people to ever play it. If you can look past the issues I've outlined and care more about being lost in an alternate world and interacting with characters and narratives that are truly unlike anything you've seen in gaming thus far, go for it. And I would also say no, if the simple inclusion of these narratives isn't enough. If you demand more, even from a company you want to succeed. I want to love Dustborn so much, but its abysmal combat Inconsistent voice line delivery and truly horrendous rhythm game mechanics make it hard to look past its fault and enjoy the experience it so desperately wants you to have. I know that real people worked on this game who have feelings, and it isn't my intent to disparage your work, whether you are a voice actor, creative director, animator, or involved in any part of the game. Making a game in and of itself is hard, and you're done no favors by individuals sugarcoating reality. I hope you try again, and maybe this time, reach out to the community you're making the game for. We write songs, we mod games, we can help. But as it stands, this feels like the game you think we want to play, instead of the one we actually do.